Okay. I will be presenting on Miller 2019. The general problem is alcohol-induced amnesia are very common with college students. Another word for this is blackout. This means they are drinking and conscious, but after they cannot remember what happened during that specific time period. Another would be that too much alcohol goes to the brain that it blocks the brain from forming new memories. Blackouts are very high in young adults, mostly to understand if students respond differently to alcohol interventions, experience blackouts. Scientific definition, another scientific definition would be a blackout is a period of anterograde amnesia in which individuals cannot remember what happened while they were drinking, though immediate sensory and short-term memories and previously consolidated memories remain intact. Um, Prior research. 66% of college students report losing their memory of events that occur while being intoxicated. Um, Alcohol-induced amnesia is one of the most commonly reported alcohol-related consequences among young college drinkers. It has also been linked to outcomes of social regret, to sexual assault, very common among non-dependent drinkers, which are drinkers that basically don't drink a lot, but they will once in a while, and it happens they black out. Blackouts are a teachable moment, which also means like after a blackout, a lot of people realize, okay, I don't want to do this again, so they start controlling their drinking. What's new? First research study to test whether a history of alcohol-induced amnesia moderates the effectiveness of a personalized feedback intervention, examines blackouts as a moderator of intervention responses. Um, Explores if reductions in peak blood alcohol concentration, which is BAC, and use of protective behavioral strategies, which is PBS, explain the effects. Um, so blood alcohol concentration is how much alcohol is in your blood at the time, and I'll also use like peak blood alcohol concentration, which is like the peak amount of alcohol that's in your blood at that time. PBS is basically strategies you could use to not overdrink or have a blackout or have alcohol related consequences. Hypothesis of the studies, experience of an alcohol-induced amnesia blackout in the past month, then a PFI will work better for them than those without a blackout. They would also report greater decreases in alcohol-related consequences, which again is like just not good choices while drinking. The effect of PFI will not just depend in general alcohol risk measured by the audit score. I'll go into depth of what the audit score kind of is later, but it's basically a survey asking how much you drink or but actually specifically on the blackout experience. Intervention participants reporting alcohol-induced amnesia in the past month would greater in the protective behavioral strategies and greater decreases in BSA, which would account for improvements in alcohol-related consequences. Again, I have the definitions for those two. So the sample, 198 college students who drink, randomly assigned to one of the two groups, which means this is a random assignment. Personalized feedback interventions, PFI, again, or assessment only. So I'll go into depth in a minute, but those are AO, PFI, there's 140. AO is 58. More females than male participants have to report drinking at least once in the last month. It's a random assignment. Also, this was a survey and you reported your outcomes after a month. So it was a 30-day test. Interventions. The PFI group, students received individualized feedback about their drinking compared to other norms. Number of drinks per week versus the average student, estimated peak BAC. They did this kind of by sex and gender, and how much they drank at their peak BAC, like I talked about before. Consequences due to drinking, financial burdens of alcohol, and protective strategies to when you are drinking. The assessment only group completed the surveys but received no feedback. So they just completed what they drank in the past month. Did they experience blackouts? Whatever. Measures. The students received a survey, try and find the peak BAC participants indicated the number of drinks consumed of hours over which they were consumed on their heaviest drinking episode. They also took into account the participants' sex and weight. The Rutgers Problem Index measured negative consequences from drinking. Protective behavioral strategy scale assessed use of harm reduction behaviors, and blackout amnesia history, single yes or no question, have you had a memory blackout from drinking in the past 30 days? The alcohol use disorders identification, which is the test of audit. The purpose, testing how well the personalized feedback would help a college student stop blacking out. It's a randomized trial. Figuring out what PFIs work best for. Okay, the results. The interaction between group and alcohol risk measures using the audit test was not significant. This basically means that it does not matter how risky your drinking was, the PFI would work the same. Um, Only drinkers who have had blackouts showed real improvements. The interaction between group and alcohol-induced amnesia was significant, predictor of alcohol-related consequences at one month follow-up. For students with blackouts in the PFI group, alcohol-related consequences decreased significantly. Students without blackouts showed no improvement. The AO group showed no improvement, and peak BAC reduction mediated improvement only for blackout participants. Additional information, protective behavioral strategies did not explain the change in drinking. PFIs were not universally effective. The benefit was specific to those with blackout experiences. The status of the hypothesis, the findings were supported by a PFI group, will work better for those with a blackout experience than those without the blackout experience. They would also report greater decreases in alcohol-related consequences. It also supported the effect of PFI will not just depend in general alcohol risk, but specifically on the blackout experience. There was partial support for the third hypothesis where it did not support the PFI reduced consequences indirectly through reductions in peak BAC, but on the other hand, the PBS did not show reductions in consequences. Some limitations of the study. Only 1 month follow-up, which means we do not know if this worked in long term. It was self-reported on their alcohol experience, which means they could lie or simply not understand what went on when they were drinking. Only samples from college students, which sets limits and generalizes the study. Not enough research on blackouts. And that's it.